Hello, cinephiles, and welcome to Silver Screen Sips, a podcast where three idiots talk about movies. And today we have our special guest, Mr. Bob Book from the Film and Whiskey podcast. We will be talking about a few different movies today, as it is our listeners' episode. And just as a warning, there are spoilers for movies and TV shows that you may not have seen coming soon. I fucked half of that up. But anyway.
It's okay. It's okay. They know by now.
Yeah.
Just know you've been warned, okay? We talk about lots of movies and TV shows that maybe aren't the movie we're talking about this episode. They could be anything. So just letting you know, if we do spoil something, don't come hate us. Simple as that. But yes, we do have. But if you do hate us, what?
We're ready. I mean, that's really.
We'll fight you. We do have our guest today, Bob Book. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, thank you for being on the show. So this is our listeners' episode, so it's a little bit different than our normal episodes go. So we spoke before the show, and you have your own film to watch, along with all of us. We all watched our own films too. So we'll take turns kind of discussing what we watched, who suggested it, and what we thought of it, whether it's good or bad.
I didn't realize that each person was assigned one movie that they watched solo for this podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you guys just stuck me with the most problematic one of all of them.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love it.
We'll get to that in just a second, but why don't you kind of tell the listeners a little bit what your podcast is about?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Film and Whiskey. It is perhaps the most self-explanatory podcast title of all time. Very similar to your title. I'm surprised that we haven't been crossing paths before now, but
I know.
The premise of the show is that, like, I grew up a huge movie nerd, and my friend Brad had not seen a lot of classic movies growing up. And so it was my opportunity to introduce him to classic movies and to get his unfiltered, unbiased opinion, because divorced from all the history of movies, he doesn't know what was a big landmark important movie and what just comes across as boring to him in 2023. So while we do that, we sip a new expression of whiskey each week. We actually went to grad school together in Kentucky and fell in love with bourbon right around the same time that we were kicking around the idea of this podcast. And so eventually we were like, hey, let's just pair these things up. And yeah, right now we're in season 6 of the podcast. So it's been going pretty strong.
Nice. Yeah, I am also surprised that we haven't crossed paths, because we're practically the same. Just you're more focused on whiskey, whereas we kind of just go all over the place. But
I love that.
Lewis as well, he's kind of the odd man out between all three of us, just because he doesn't work in film or have experience with film. He just likes movies. So Isaiah and I both have a lot of experience in the industry and stuff. So we kind of teach him new things every episode. But
I love it.
You know how to say biopic instead of biopic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an epidemic. I feel like everywhere I go, I hear people pronounce it that way. It makes it sound like a medical procedure.
So here's the thing. There's two things. One, when I first said it that way, biopic, they told me it was a completely different thing from a biopic. Number one. Number two, when I looked it up, I actually heard the pronunciation both in American English and in Queen's English. And people from England are the ones who pronounce it biopic.
Oh,
so that's the reason why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help that
excuses.
Lou's got a medical background, so of course it does sound like a procedure.
Right.
Yeah. No, my background's in pre-med, and now I'm actually going into a master's as well, but for counseling.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever need a therapist, Big Lou's your guy. Right. Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything before we get started?
I think I'm good. I listened to a couple episodes today. Cool. Wrongly disagree with Fallen Kingdom being the worst movie you guys have done. That was
Fallen Kingdom? You liked it?
I'm not saying that, but but I was just a little shocked that it was like that was the title, and I was like, oh, they're gonna be reviewing Cats or something, and then it was Jurassic World Fallen. Especially since I thought the newest one was significantly worse than the second one.
Granted, at the time of recording that one, we hadn't seen the latest one, so it was a little late for that. But yeah,
it's real bad.
Yeah, it was.
In terms of like, I mean, I'm sure you listened to our actual recording on Dominion, but I don't know. I would say in terms of like visually and cohesiveness in the story, it was somewhere along the way better at some point.
Yeah,
but still, they're both just atrocious movies as overall.
I just kind of liked it. The second one just like kind of threw its hands up in the air and said, all right, this is a B movie and we're just going to like make it a haunted house monster movie now. And I was like, cool. You know, I'm glad that they like didn't try to Rise of Skywalker it and make it somehow fit into some universe.
God, don't get us started on Star Wars.
If we actually had to say it's the worst movie ever done, that we've ever done, it was actually Rise of Skywalker. But
there you go.
That was like that was our first season with Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So we had a long episode for the sequels, I guess is what you call them. But
yeah, we have totally avoided the sequels because it's just we're at the point now where it's like I don't know what we would add to the conversation or
that
the
hasn't
arguments.
Already been said.
Yeah. And Brad is on one side of Last Jedi and I'm on the other side, and it's just like,
which side are you on?
I loved it. Yeah.
All right. It was great having you on the show.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like an immediate disqualification for whichever side you're on. So.
I think Lewis liked it, right?
When I first saw it, before we reviewed it, like that was a different story. But when I first saw it, I actually initially told Bethany and her boyfriend, I was like, you guys are actually gonna like, I think you'll like this. Because visually it definitely like, you know,
for sure.
It's very exciting and everything like that. But then when you break it down as like an actual Star Wars film, there's a lot.
It's definitely flawed. I'm not going to act like it's, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. I think it's
or the greatest one, Phantom Menace. But.
Right.
Oh God. I think it's great as a standalone film. Yeah. But as a huge Star Wars nerd, there's certain things that they did that the whole sequel, I was just like, what the fuck? This is not Star Wars.
Yeah.
But, I feel like it's a very, I try to avoid, like with friends and coworkers and stuff, to avoid just talking about Star Wars, the sequel in general, because everyone has they're never like neutral. It's very strong either or. So it's like, oh, you gotta tiptoe around it.
I feel it. Anyway, sorry to open up like 4 different cans of worms right before you hit record.
You're good.
We
derail. Yeah, we derail all the time. So we encourage it, if anything.
Great.
The other thing you should definitely tell Bethany is that you thought Solo was a good movie.
Nope.
Oh, thank you.
No, that movie. And
he says it to piss me off, and it works.
That movie was a mess.
Yeah, that was rough. I was doing I had a fight. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I had a fight that I was doing, and Lewis was there to watch, and he just yelled from the sidelines. He was like, she said Solo was a good movie, just to like get me really mad so that I would beat her. But
I was filming
so now it's become now it's become a running joke. But
I actually remember in the middle of the fight you like stopped and looked at me.
Yeah. But so I guess we can start with Isaiah's film. So why don't you tell us what you had to watch and what you thought of it?
Arguably the best of the 4 films, but we'll find out.
I don't know. My film was pretty fucking good.
We'll find out shortly.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts to say about your film, Beth, but we will.
Oh, I need to hear.
So my film was Good Will Hunting, and it was suggested by Jenna. Thank you, Jenna. Now,
thank you, Jenna.
I don't have a lot of notes on the movie. It's fantastic. That's all I got to say. Like it's a perfect movie. it's a 5 out of 5 for me. That's what I rarely do 5 out of 5s.
He
And
rarely does.
yeah, so like if you looked at my letterbox, it's like 5 out of 5. It's the first 5 out of 5 I've done in like months.
Do you know what Letterbox is?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm very active on Letterboxd.
Oh, good. We'll have to follow each other because
I'm not
I
an
love seeing
interesting
everyone's-
person to follow though, because I just I rate the movie out of 5 and I make no comments on it. It's more just so I remember like what I wanted the movie to be considered, but I'm not good at like the short, quippy, twittery
that's
film
Isaiah
reviews.
all the way.
Yeah,
He does quippy little one-liners.
Yeah, so if you want to know what I thought of a movie with absolutely no other context around it, you can follow me on
Letterboxd. Yeah. I did that at first where I didn't write like reviews or anything. I just kind of rated them. But more recently, actually, I think since we started really getting into the show, I started writing lengthier reviews, more so just for like practice, so that I don't just come onto the show and be like, it looked pretty, you know? I actually can have some like decent thoughts. But yeah, no, I also like the whole like list making concept where you can have like your favorites, whatever's like, I have like favorite horror movies. We talked about this in the last episode, Letterboxd. I really do think they should sponsor us at this point. Like, I feel like every episode we talk about them.
They're getting too much free publicity out of you guys.
Yeah. But continue, Isaiah. Sorry.
So for mine, yeah, I didn't put like a quippy response. So like on my Instagram, if it's a new movie that's like in theaters or like a Netflix original or anything like that, I'll usually make like an actual review and have like the breakdown of like, oh, this is what's good, here's what's bad, all that, etc. Ironically enough, though, on Letterboxd, I put the quippy one-liner ones, which is I put horny for math.
Yeah.
Because I know the movie's fantastic. Like I said, all the acting is on par. Like it's just top tier. The writing is phenomenal. I almost cried during one of the scenes where Robin Williams and Matt Damon are together, and they're like having that moment of he's finally realizing what's his problem, and it was like, oh god, this is getting you right in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And like the argument between Robin Williams and I forgot his name. I think it's Alan Skarsgård. They have like this big argument, and you can just feel like even though they're all acting and stuff like that, but you could feel like someone's angry at somebody for something.
Yeah.
And I've heard the stories of like, oh, that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote the movie, right? And then they included a sex scene in there just to see who's reading the movie, like who's reading the scripts. I was like trying to think in my head of like, okay, at what point is that scene would they throw that in there so that just puts everybody like, what the fuck?
It's in the beginning where Robin Williams first meets Matt Damon.
We're not gonna talk about that, but yeah, the one thing that was like that was odd. But it doesn't detract from the movie. I just think it makes it funnier or like just just weird. Is Skarsgård's character? He like just openly hits on students, and then also is like just really into math to the point where he's saying like it's erotic, and I'm like, you're such a weird dude. You really like numbers, don't you?
Guess what his favorite number is?
Nice.
Nice.
So I gave it a 5 out of 5. Thank you, Jennifer, because I never watched this movie. I never watched this movie before, and I wasn't really planning on watching it. Like it wasn't on my to-do list anywhere. So thank you, Jenna, for recommending it, because finally I've seen this movie. Also, Robin Williams was the GOAT.
Oh yeah, all the way. One of the best. One of my favorites. I watched it actually not super duper long ago, maybe a year or two ago, and I had never even heard of it. And actually, my boyfriend Jacob got me to watch it. He was like, "You need to watch this. If you love Robin Williams, you will love this movie." And he wasn't wrong. I like Isaiah, it made me like want to cry. It's just, it tugs at your heartstrings. And it's also just like, oh, the acting, come on.
I think the next movie is what I have to watch is Dead Poet Society.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Dead Poet Society is an incredible film, and it's definitely it's going to do the same thing that Good Will Hunting does as far as tugging at your heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and also just as far as not even just Williams' character, but like I'm not going to spoil anything, but you can see Robin Williams doesn't just act, like he really lives and breathes the character that he plays in that movie.
Mhm.
And it's fantastic.
I don't think I've seen this film I am so
That
sorry.
happens frequently.
The people at off my road here, they love to just speed like motorcycles all the time. So I apologize for that. But I don't think I've seen Dead Poet Society either. So
I saw it in high school originally.
I'll have to
Robin
watch
Williams double feature.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a third one?
it. Oh yeah.
What's the third?
There's a movie. It came out the year after Dead Poet Society called Awakenings. You guys ever heard of this movie?
Yes.
All right. So this is one of those like shamelessly manipulative and corny, like Oscar bait type movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. And Robin Williams he works in a hospital with people who they have a condition where they're like kind of catatonic, but they're like awake and they just can't move or anything. And he develops a drug that lets them have these awakenings. And I won't spoil the ending of the movie, but Robert De Niro is one of his patients. And this movie is like, I am like hyperventilating, crying at the end of this movie. It's Robin Williams is like, he just exudes so much warmth. And I think that's what you guys are getting at. Like he embodies this. I've seen a few movies where he ends up being the bad guy, and I think he does a good job, but it's really hard to buy him as a bad guy because you could tell he was just such a kind soul.
Mm-hmm. I think the one we should talk about is Mrs. Doubtfire. Just saying.
Oh yeah,
that's his best film of all time.
No, without a doubt. But
yeah,
to piggyback on what he was mentioning about awakening. So the condition they all have is actually Parkinson's disease. There's a form of it that can lead you into a catatonic state. The drug they develop is L-Dopa, which is the first treatment for Parkinson's. Awakenings is actually based on the book and studies by Dr. Oliver Sacks. I
know that name.
Yes, I mentioned him previously. He died of ocular cancer not too long ago. But he's my favorite, probably one of the favorite neurologists that I've ever heard of, and definitely one of the best writers I've seen, or well, read. But yeah, no, Awakenings. Awakenings was definitely.
I don't want to undermine your touching moment here, but like, what's the top 5 neurologist list look like? Is that like a like, you're like one? I mean, seriously, one of my favorites. Like, I'm shocked that I know one neurologist.
I mean,
I know one now.
Well, no, I would. I mean, I wouldn't technically refer to him as a neurologist, but I would say like Ben Carson is technically a neurosurgeon. I wouldn't really consider him a favorite, being his the can of worms that he creates every time he opens his mouth.
Sure,
but I think a third one would be a character that I know of. A fourth of the neurologist I actually saw personally. I thought I had like this weird neurological condition in my hands. I don't understand why, but it turns out I didn't. I don't have a fifth.
I'm really happy that you gave that.
I could even think of.
Right.
Yeah, no, I figured, but
I'm like, Dr. Seuss, does that count? What did he do?
And before we can steer back to the conversation that we were supposed to have, I'm going to add a fourth film to this list that we should watch. It's Patch Adams.
There you go.
Patch Adams.
We could have a whole episode just about Robin Williams films.
Yeah, no, you really could. And
I also wanted to add another one.
Well, before you do, I also met the real life Patch Adams. It was
I thought you were about to say
crazy.
Robin Williams.
No, I met the real life Patch Adams, and that was fucking phenomenal.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What is the one where he ages but
Jack
mentally does? Yes. Oh my God, Jack.
Have you watched that movie like as an adult?
Yes.
I have not.
Okay. I haven't seen it since I was like 8 years old, and I'm really scared that it's not going to hold up.
No, watch it. You'll bawl your eyes out. You'll need like an inhaler. You'll be hyperventilating that much. I think, Isaiah, if you liked Good Will Hunting, you'd definitely. I would watch it too. Jack.
All my lists. The
It's good.
Robin Williams collection.
Yeah. New letterbox list is just Robin Williams films.
Forget the Hunger Games. We're gonna just go through all of Robin Williams' films next.
Put that on the list, Isaiah. All right. Well, would you say a 5 out of 5?
5 out of 5.
Wow. Yeah, that's very rare for you.
I'm very picky.
Well deserved.
Oh yeah. I'm glad that you rated it that high because I didn't want to say anything about the film because I hate when people are like, you need to watch this film. It's so good. Because then I go in overhyped and then I'm usually disappointed. So I was trying to stay quiet on this one. I was like, I'm just going to let him go in.
Yeah, for me, when we were picking out our films, I was like, no, Isaiah, like, I already thought Isaiah had already seen Good Will Hunting. Then I was like, if he hasn't, Isaiah, I just want Isaiah to watch this. I want to know what he thinks because I would actually like a genuine film critic review.
Yeah. Movie good. That's his review. So Bob, why don't you kind of go into what you had to watch since it's completely opposite is what you're sounding like?
Very, very much. Bad Will Hunting is the movie that I watched. the slasher movie sequel to Good Will Hunting. I had 1974's Chinatown. And I don't know which listener suggested this. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, I do. That is Thomas C.
Thomas. Good taste, my man. I had not watched Chinatown. I hadn't watched Chinatown in 15 years probably. And, I think I watched it the first time when I was in high school. And I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. I don't understand why it's, considered one of the 25 best American movies of all time. And watching it again this time, freaking mind-blowingly good. I hadn't seen it since they restore. I don't know if it was a restoration or if they just went back and digitally remastered it, but it looks
George
gorgeous.
Lucas
Yes,
did with Star Wars.
they inserted stormtroopers into the background. It was incredible.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. Jack Nicholson's incredible. Faye Dunaway, it's probably the best performance by her I've ever seen. Yeah, it's a great mystery. It's a great film noir. I don't know. Have you guys seen Chinatown before?
Yeah.
There's a history behind it.
There's a very personal reason why Isaiah and I personally, I don't know if Lewis has ever seen it.
No, I haven't. I actually flipped a coin because Bob, you were either going to watch Chinatown or the one that I saw, which was Let the Right One In.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's funny because I've actually, based on the personal experience that Beth's had, I've actually never seen Chinatown.
Oh.
I've managed to skirt away from the
You're a lucky bastard then.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she'll go into it and explain it, but I was like to put it out that I actually somehow managed to escape the horror.
All right, let's hear the reasoning.
I'm sure if I watched this on my own, I probably wouldn't even say hate it as much as I do, but maybe I would be a little more neutral towards it. But Isaiah and I both went to the same film school. And there was a small selection of movies that every single class shuffled through. It was Chinatown, The Shining, and what was the other one that they would always go through?
Is it not Lewis's movie? Because
there was another one. It might. Oh no! It might have been what is it? Amelie? Is that how you say it?
Oh yeah,
Amelie.
Yeah, those were the three films that I saw probably at least 20 times throughout my degree. So
that explains why you hate Amelie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say for a fact, those three films are some of my least favorite films. I liked The Shining the first time I saw it on my own when I was way younger. But then when you have to see it a dozen times and break it down scene by scene, and the professors are all over these movies too. So it's okay, calm down, buddy. So it's that's the only reason. I mean, maybe if I watched it now, outside of that atmosphere, maybe I could change my mind, but I just have that personal vendetta against it.
So here's what I'll say is going for it in its favor is that it's the least pretentious movie that I could have imagined it be. I thought that it was going to be the film school professor circle jerk movie, and and it wasn't. It was really gritty, and the script it's probably one of the most perfect scripts I've ever seen acted out on screen. There's like many Chekhov's gun moments. Like everything has a payoff. It's a great mystery, and a really like super downbeat film noir ending. Like it's kind of a gut punch. It's super good. I will say I agree with you about The Shining. My hot take is always that like I think Kubrick is a more up and down filmmaker than people want to admit.
I am so glad that you think that, because
Yeah,
I feel like I'm the only one that thinks
No,
that.
I think there's like an Emperor's New Clothes thing going on with Kubrick, and everyone just like whenever a movie comes out from a director like that doesn't fully work, like for some reason there's certain directors that we all say like, well, it must be something wrong with us. Like I must just not get it. And it's like, no, maybe he just made a bad movie. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's a couple of filmmakers today working like that.
Brian
That
Johnson.
I think
Sorry, there was something in my throat there for a second.
that I think get the benefit of the doubt a little bit. Like I've not been a huge fan of every single one of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. I think some of them are masterpieces, and some of them I could just skip. But Kubrick's definitely that guy for me.
Yeah, up and down kind of thing.
But Chinatown, not up and down. All up, no down.
What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I would give this movie a 5 out of 5. And I was not expecting to say that at all. Incredibly entertaining movie.
Oh, wow.
I have to watch that next.
It's on HBO Max. Throw the subtitles on. I don't know if you guys watch everything with subtitles. I watch everything with subtitles now. Yeah. Just freaking fantastic. It'll be the fastest 2 hours and 10 minutes. Super entertaining, well paced. Can't speak highly enough of it. I'm super glad that Thomas had me watch this movie.
Well, my professor will love you. So
A+.
All right, so we're going to take a brief minute just to thank our sponsor for our episode today, Shaker and Spoon. It is a monthly subscription service that gives you bar quality recipes and ingredients designed by award-winning mixologists. If you'd like your very own subscription, then you can head over to shakerandspoon.com and use our promo code SIPS10 to get $10 off your first subscription. Again, that is promo code SIPS10, SIPS 10 to get $10 off. All right, so let's just keep the ball rolling with 5 stars here. Let's talk about my film. I watched Interstellar. Okay, that was my film. I watched Interstellar. It was suggested by...
I just saw Bob's face.
What happened?
I just saw Bob's face. He does not agree.
No way.
No, I just smelled something real bad over here. That's what that face was.
It's what was coming out of her mouth. That's what it was.
Yeah. It's the bullshit. So this film was suggested by 2 people, actually, DJ and Ellis. Good old Ellis. We miss you. So I have quite a few facts, actually, Isaiah. I wrote some facts because that was, to me, that was the most intriguing part of the film, was the work that went into making it. And it's very rare for me to actually like look into behind the scenes of a film and how it's made. I think the last one I really looked deep into was the new Avatar, just because, come on.
Oh
why
my
not?
God, how did it that?
Yeah, had to. But all right, Isaiah, get ready. Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, let's go.
I will say this is probably my favorite soundtrack he's ever composed. I think the song is called like In the Cornfields or Chasing in the Cornfields, something like that. There's one of the pieces.
It's called the Cornfield. It's called the Cornfield Chase.
The Cornfield Chase. Thank you. It is just so beautiful, and you can hear it. It's kind of like he kind of uses it as a motif throughout the entire film, and you can hear it just slightly different at certain parts. And it's just so iconic. Like it's amazing. Now, Christopher Nolan, he directed this film.
He did, indeed.
And I have a love-hate relationship with this man. For one thing, not a huge fan of Dark Knight Rises or Tenet, which I haven't seen Tenet, so I can't say anything, but it just doesn't seem like my kind of thing.
You're just passing judgment already. I like it. I'm not a huge fan of Tenet. Haven't seen it, but I don't like it.
Oh, we do straight judgment here. That's all we do.
After you said you don't like Dark Knight Rises, it was nice being part of this podcast. I will be handing in my resignation.
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm just saying it's not his best work. That's all I'm saying for a Christopher Nolan film.
I retract my resignation.
Now, I think actually seeing this film made me really excited for Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys, I don't know if you guys have all seen the trailer for that, but oh my God, that's probably going to be the next film I see in theaters.
I can't wait to go into like a Dolby theater and have my soul be shattered.
Yeah, with just the loud explosions.
With your eardrum just ruptured?
Yes.
Yeah. Your face just melts off.
I want to leave feeling like I just watched an actual nuclear bomb, which apparently, if he could, I feel like he would.
Did you guys see this news story that he like?
Yes. Yeah.
I still don't know. I need the details of this because it's like apparently he recreated a nuclear blast, but with none of the radiation. And I'm like, did he just invent a new clean energy version of an atomic bomb? Like, I don't understand. It sounded like weirdly pro bomb. Like all the blast, none of the radiation. Like I was very confused.
He straight up. We have an episode. I forgot what it's called. I mean, I forgot
Christopher Nolan. Commits like a war crime.
That's one of the episode's names, and it's us talking about. A big part of it is us talking about him blowing up something without the radiation. He literally just took like the most amount of explosives he possibly could, put them in like the middle of Nevada or somewhere like in the desert, and just blew it up and recorded it and said, "We got it, boys."
It's
awesome.
He said it's basically like supposed to just emulate an atomic bomb without it actually. It's not an actual atomic bomb because that would be a literal war crime, which is what we were talking about. But it's a big enough explosion that you can get the shots to make it look like an atomic bomb.
Got it.
So
okay.
that's what I want to see.
Do tell me that if this man could not, like he did not,
yeah, he would.
First idea was not to like contact Congress and be like, "Hey, could I?"
Yeah. So here, listen. I was thinking.
Yeah. No, the closest thing I can. Sorry. The closest thing I can think of is if he, got short of acquiring as many explosives as he did, the next best thing I would have thought of is he acquired the permission to detonate a hydrogen bomb.
Yeah.
Which would give relatively the same effect, just not the same radius. But I don't know. We'll find out.
It doesn't do enough damage. That's his key component there that he looks at. Anyways, yeah, so it made me excited for that film. But the cinematography alone in this film is breathtaking. Like you could take practically any still shot and it's a masterpiece. The way that they actually had to basically, I wrote it down too, just so I don't fuck this up. So they had to make like entirely new CGI technology in order to realistically like represent scientific phenomena. So like the black hole and all the wormhole and all of that, they had to actually create new CGI technology, which I thought was very interesting just because that alone is a feat, Another thing that I appreciated that went into the film was the dedication and the determination to stick as true to science as possible. Nolan actually spoke with a Nobel Prize winning or something physicist or whatever his name was Dr. Kip, I believe. I didn't write my facts down on this one.
All the notes to write down. You didn't write this one.
Yeah, I didn't have Isaiah with me. But they basically he was like, okay, is this possible to do this? Like jump through a wormhole and like, what would it be like? And like, he was trying to get it as accurate as possible, just like he is with Oppenheimer. And that alone, like just the dedication into making sure it's as realistic as possible. It's very hard to come across. It's very hard to come by nowadays in films. So now I could talk for hours about like the story and stuff. It's it's a good story. Okay, this is going to be a task. So the time travel concept and everything, that part of the story, I love. Everything else, not a huge fan. It's straight mid, as the kids say. It's no different than any other film. It's really that time travel space aspect that makes it unique. Another interesting thing about Hans Zimmer, because I kind of got sidetracked, the song when they're on the water planet. I'm sure this is a very known fact. I know Isaiah knows this one. He's smirking over there. I can see him. Every clock tick that you hear when they're on that planet is supposed to resemble 1.5 days on Earth. So when they're on the planet, you can actually hear in the background like a clock like ticking. And that, I mean, come on. And like Hans Zimmer was given very little information on the film. Like I think Nolan gave him 1 page explaining the main themes of the film. And that was it. And Hans Zimmer made this banger of a soundtrack based off of this 1 page. Like, all right, he might be going above John Williams just a little bit. They're neck and neck. Oh, I gotta look from Bob there for a second.
That was just a really bold statement. Like I respect it, but you were just like, hey, Hans Zimmer, the GOAT.
John, you're fucking out. No, I'm just kidding. I love John Williams. He's never gonna. I don't think he's ever gonna be beaten for me. But Hans Zimmer is definitely a close second, and then Howard Shore is probably my third favorite. So I'm just gonna quickly explain the only issues I had with the film was the runtime was just a little too long for me. I'm not a huge fan of like almost 3-hour long films in general. There's very few films that I think it's justifiable. Even Lord of the Rings, I'm like, oh my God, why are you this long? You could cut out a lot of this story and it would still be an amazing movie. So yeah, I understand that they needed to set up the whole concept and everything, but there was a few scenes they could have cut out and it could have been like a 2 hours and 10-minute long film and it would have been better, but it was like 2 hours and 50. Some other fun facts I wrote down and then I'll shut up. Some of the individual frames, I'm going to go back to the CGI. Some of the individual frames, so just one shot, one singular frame, took up to 100 hours to render alone.
As someone who does rendering.
One frame. For those who aren't knowledgeable, like Lewis, there's
wow.
For some people who are just dumb.
Yeah, that's me.
Basically, rendering is. How would you explain rendering, Isaiah? Because I can't even think to how to explain it.
Okay, well, I'll break it down to a frame. So a frame is just this is just like if you freeze it,
that's a picture.
Yeah, it's just
one shot. Yeah.
Now you have an entire scene that's all fake. So everything in all the information that's in that frame is there, and then when it moves to the next frame, all the information is still there, but it now has to figure it out from the next angle. So if you skip like 30 frames, right, all the information from one angle to the next of it moving has to be rethought and reconfigured from that angle, even though it's only like not even like barely discernible of like how next it moved, or if it even is moving, or whatever's in the shot has to be redone again to be like, okay, now this is perfect. This is what exactly it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, it like goes through all the data and all
exactly.
that.
And the more stuff you have in it, and like the more crazy it gets, the longer it takes to run that information. And what do you call this? Is Hollywood. Hollywood's using like the best computers, the fastest computers, and if it's taking them 100 hours to render one frame with the best technology, God,
Yeah.
God help everyone.
I saw that and I was like, they had to have at least had, I don't know, 30 systems, more than that going at a time.
I'm sure there was
It's a lot of money. That's why movies are so expensive to make.
I'm sure it was multiple computers hooked up together.
Yeah, chiming on one thing here. I've played enough video games to understand what rendering is, Bethany. Thank you.
Okay, you know what? Fuck you. You got me there.
No, but Isaiah, that actually that breakdown is helpful to conceptualize it, I guess.
Yeah, for those who don't play games or
watch a lot of films, Um,
yeah.
Bob, what do you have there? Out of curiosity.
Are we talking drinks? I was
Yes.
so curious because you guys, it looks like at least two of you are drinking cocktails, and I was
Well, yeah, no, I was
very
I
curious.
finished mine a while ago.
I finished this.
Oh, some
You
Chivas.
finished it?
Good for
Yeah,
you.
well, it was only like this much left.
Oh, okay. Fair.
I've got a little tiny bottle of Craig and Moore 12 year.
Ooh, that's nice.
Single malt scotch. It is pretty nice.
Yes.
We just drank this on an episode that's coming out like next week, and so it's still sitting on the desk. We just reviewed it. But, I was getting really jealous of the two of you, so I figured it was alcohol time.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I was preparing for you to join us, actually, really. So, because I haven't had it, I'm pretty sure I haven't had anything in like a week, which is rare for me. But
That makes one of us.
I'm like deeply offended that you haven't developed a cocktail for this episode. That's like, I listened to your most recent one.
We do have a podcast themed drink. We made our own drink for the show.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Is that what I was listening
thing.
to? It was like your most recently published episode, and you
Oh,
broke
no,
down
no.
a cocktail
No,
recipe.
no.
Oh, okay.
We have an actual silver screen sip that I came up with on the fly. Buck, what was it? It was Bailey's.
There you go.
Oh, he's got it. Wow, look at Isaiah. Isaiah's our fax man. Or if we need anything, we ask him.
I had a Cara orange. So it has to be a Cara orange specifically. They're very sweet. They're not like heavy on the citrus. A chocolate drizzle specifically. I have to remember the brand. That's the problem. It's like the same one that they do for like a lot of the brownies, that red box.
Mm.
I just can't remember the name right now.
Like Ghirardelli?
Not Ghirardelli, the very like cheap common one from Publix.
Hershey's.
It's like, what is that? Duncan Hines or Betty Crocker, like one of those?
I think it was a Betty Crocker.
Okay.
It was a Betty Crocker chocolate sauce that you drizzle. You drizzled it on the Cara orange. You poured yourself a shot of Bailey's. You slam the Bailey's, and you take a bite of your orange with the chocolate drizzle.
I'm in. This sounds great.
It's absolutely delicious. I can tell you that. But
yeah, we did that for like our what was it? Like a celebration of our first season being over or something.
Yeah, it was
like
our listeners episode, our first listener episodes. We came out with it.
Yeah,
I had a bunch of different ideas kind of bouncing around, but I couldn't really get the ingredients together. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to just improvise and adapt.
Yeah.
And I went on the fly with that, and I made a short video, and I'm pretty sure it's still on our Instagram. And you see me just slamming a shot of Bailey's and biting an orange. Another case, I was trying to get a lot of feedback because I had just started bartending at the time when I used to work at Outback, and yeah, it was a little difficult to get like an idea for what we could do because a lot of the first ideas we had were just B-52 bombers to match the color.
Yeah, because we're trying to stick with our like color theme of like orange, brownish black, and like a beige color.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're very limited when it comes to that part.
Well, I was going to say, if you wanted to do a spin on the silver screen, you could do like a silver tequila.
Yeah.
Do something with that. Maybe put your Cara orange in tequila and go from there.
Perhaps our season 10 listeners episode. We'll reassess a new you got him thinking now. Look at him.
Next time we invite Bob back to one of our episodes, I'll have thought of something with silver tequila and a Cara orange. Although I will probably not make it through it, but that's fine.
Are you not a tequila guy?
No, I have. So I tried to treat tequila the way I do whiskey, and that was my mistake. So now I kind of avoid tequila because I feel like if I drink it again, I will have that experience.
Yep.
But I respect tequila very much now. And then the mezcal she got in our first
for our sponsor
box. Yeah. The mezcal, I would definitely play around with that. Actually, I think the mezcal would probably also be a good choice.
I have it still. I still have like half the bottle left. I can mess with it. If you come up with anything, let us know.
I was going to say, I'm sorry to get you so off track, but we started talking alcohol, and I feel like I'm in my element now.
No, I know, definitely.
Yeah.
That makes three of us.
Yeah, Isaiah, what do you have?
I have a can of Coke and a bottle of Bacardi.
There you go.
There you go.
He loves Bacardi.
You
Sorry.
That's
just-
the world's best cocktail right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rum and
The world's
Coke,
most
man.
famous cocktail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most common.
Mhm.
But yeah, sorry to derail from Interstellar there. I did want to add
you're
also,
good.
I did confirm one of your facts. It was Dr. Kip Thorne
Thank
was
you.
was the Nobel laureate astrophysicist. Who,
That's a fake name. There's no way that person's name is
no,
Kip
his name
Thorne.
is dead ass Kip Thorne. He's probably from Australia.
That man is on the run from someone. Oh, no,
might have
my
won-
name's totally Kip Thorne. What are you
Yeah.
I
talking
might
about?
have won the Nobel Prize. However, my bookie's still looking for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm surprised with how well I remembered those facts. Well, for me.
I found his Wikipedia. His
Kip
name
Thorne?
is Kip Stephen Thorne.
So Kip is his full first name. It's not short for like Kippington or
Kip-
something. Like it's just
Kipley.
No. There is our Nobel laureate.
Kip.
What?
Nobel.
Oh, he's
Laureate.
old.
Yeah, he's old as shit. But I did see a
I was
mention of
not
Carl.
expecting that.
He's a
Oh,
longtime
man.
friend of Stephen Hawking and Carl Sagan. That's
I love that
That's-
that's his biography. Is like
Yeah.
Kip Thorne was bros
Friend
with these
of.
two other most famous people.
yeah.
Mm.
The second thing I was going to throw in here, one of the facts I guess you didn't. I don't know if you wrote it down or it wasn't really relevant, but apparently Anne Hathaway developed hypothermia. during
Hypothermia. I don't know. I guess where they were filming was cold and she
Iceland.
actually started getting hypothermia, but they pushed through the rest of the scene and then she was fine. I tried looking for the scene where, like, to see if she looked like she was dying, but I couldn't find it.
I like the way you described it though, Bethany, which was like she was getting hypothermia, but then they just pushed through it and then she was fine. Like,
Yeah,
like
she
she
got over
willed
it.
herself into not having hypothermia.
She literally had 5 minutes before she, went through irreversible damage and possible
Right.
fatal injuries.
Yeah.
But they just pushed through it.
She
Right.
acted through it, She acted as if she was fine, then she was fine.
It's dedication at its finest.
That's right.
I would like to just note that now I do like Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors. However, it's with an asterisk because I do feel like he's made a lot of great movies. The problem is there's very rarely that he gets like a 5 out of 5 for me. I feel like a lot of the movies are good. There's like a lot of 4 out of 5s. But I feel like he kind of hit his peak and has kind of just been level for a while. I don't feel like he's
What was
kind
his
of,
peak?
I would say Inception was his peak.
Okay,
And then
that's what I was thinking. Was
Let's
Inception?
see if Oppenheimer is.
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe
is
it'll
nothing.
be like a kind of like an up and down.
because the thing is like the way I kind of figured out of how he is he's got good moments in his movies. Like for Interstellar, I liked Interstellar. I love the music. We call it Hans Zimmer, the soundtrack, the theme. I have a friend who's learning the theme to play on the piano and stuff like that.
That's what I want to do.
Oh my god, the docking scene is like one of the best scenes in like cinema history. Like it's so powerful and I love it. The problem is that I don't remember any of the movie. It is a 2.5 hour movie. I don't remember any of it other than the docking scene. And what do you call it? The I forgot what it's called when he's like going through the dimensions.
Yeah. You don't
Time
remember
travel.
Anne Hathaway telling him like love can travel through wormholes, man? Like that's
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
I forgot what I was looking at some like reviews of it, and there was a YouTuber, I forgot who it was, but he had mentioned that the reason the movie isn't that good, like it isn't like a 5 out of 5, is because the theme and the tone is just in your face. Most movies is like, oh, the subtext, you kind of learn what the theme is, you kind of figure it out yourself. The problem with this movie is that scene specifically straight up just tells you what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
There's no learning about it. There's no figuring it out. There's no like, okay, this is what my takeaway is from this or anything. I'm just going to straight up tell you what this movie is about. Okay, now move on. Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I will say that part of the film, I didn't write that down, but I should have. That whole monologue with her, that just felt like not out of place, but it felt almost out of character for her too, because she seemed like this strong, smart scientist, like astronaut lady. Don't know what her official title was. That had one mission. It was like to save the world, and now she's like, oh, there's a man involved that I like. let me go talk about him and completely use my heart and not my head, like any woman would. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, but yeah, no, that did feel out of place. It kind of took me out of it in that moment. I was like, what is happening? Felt kind of like a teenage movie.
Yeah, I actually still have yet to watch Interstellar.
Oh, you got to see it.
Wait, so where are you landing? Like rating?
Yeah, what's your rating?
Oh, I gave it a 5 out of 5.
She just had some mild critiques.
I had some mild critiques, but they're immediately surpassed by or overlooked by the rest of the film and what went into it and stuff. Also, one last little note, and then I'll actually shut up for good. By the end of the film, they had over 800 terabytes of data.
Wow.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh my God.
That's a lot. Yeah. That is 800 Call of Duty games for those who don't understand. But yeah, no, there's a lot went into it, and I think that's what it deserves credit for. So, anyways, end of my endless monologue. So, Lewis, why don't we end it with a bang?
Wow. A lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
I can't make the full decision to commit to a particular score between either a 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5. Let the right one in. I'm gonna talk about a couple of facts as well, actually. Let the right one in. There is a 2008 film, the Swedish film. There is the American version, which is 2010 Let Me In, directed by Matt Reeves. There is a TV series, apparently, that's being launched, I think, on either Amazon Prime or HBO.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Also, who suggested this film, real quick, before we forget? Tom.
I believe it was Tom C.
Thanks, Tom.
So Tom is actually the guy who's just
it's the same guy.
Chinatown. Yeah, same guy. Let the Right One In actually won 4 Guldbagge Awards, which included the Best Director for Thomas Alfredson,
Mm-hmm.
Best Cinematography for, I hope I pronounce this correctly, hold on, Hoyt van Hoytema.
Nice.
Best Screenplay for John Ajvid Lindqvist.
Man, they're really trying you today.
Yeah. Well, no, I know I pronounced his last name right, but because I actually looked that one up. It won a Saturn Award for Best International Film and the Empire Award for Best Horror Film. Definitely deserves a lot of accolades, or deserving of its many accolades that it has achieved. It received the Nordic Film Prize. That's also something I forgot to mention.
Bob, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
you were on a roll with
okay.
your Swedish awards. I was gonna say, fun fact: Hoyt van Hoytema, or however you say his name, has become really successful DP in America, and he was the DP on Interstellar.
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
now it all connects.
There it is.
It comes full circle.
Would it be crazy if I was like, and also Chinatown? Like,
And also Chinatown. He was 12 when he was the cinematographer in Chinatown. And now it's technically a romantic horror film. No. So here's the thing I will give to Alfredson, and I definitely he's deserving of his award for Best Director. I think he made the right move. He personally was not a fan of like this whole idea of vampires and horror and whatnot. So he kind of pulled away from the novel a bit and focused mainly on the main characters. I think he did an excellent job in doing that. I think the adherence to some of the main themes from the novel was done very well. And overall, I think it made it a better film to not focus on this whole idea of it being surrounding vampires. That's only like a small insight into what the film is about. But overall, I think it was definitely a unique film that stands out in my memory as far as horror films. My criticism, I think, lies more so in some of the transitions in the story, like especially the ending. The build-up in the story, the setting they've created, it doesn't make sense for the ending to go that way. So I feel like that's why I don't give it a full 5 out of 5. I actually will settle on a 4.5 out of 5 for an excellent film. Definitely enjoyed watching it. Definitely worth the 2 hours. It is. I think it's an hour and 57 minutes or something like that, but it's definitely worth 2 hours of your time. It was actually, since we were having a discussion the other day about watching foreign films, this was definitely one of those films that I'm grateful to have watched being a foreign film. I read up on the American version. I feel like it's not as good.
It's usually how it goes when things are dubbed.
It's not dubbed.
Isn't that the dub?
Well, no, I know, but I think of like Squid Games is what I'm thinking of. It's like the shitty version.
Mr. Beast,
Yeah.
Beth, you do know that the American version is a remake and not like a dubbed version, right?
Of Let the Right One In.
Yeah, it's called Let Me In.
Yeah, no. I totally understand. I'm just saying, usually when anyone tries to take something that was foreign and make it not foreign, it usually doesn't go right. Like the delivery is not the same.
Right. No, I understand. And I didn't watch the film myself, like the American version, I mean. So I can't for sure say that it's not going to be a good movie. I feel like from what I read, they stuck very much to the original plot. They stuck very much to the original story. They just kind of adapted it a little bit. So it should still be a good film. I just feel like this one may have been done better. I also want to say for the time it was released, and props to the special effects, props to the cinematography from Hoyt. And yeah, that's about all I have to say so much, really. The main facts I had was the awards it won. I was like, wow, that's cool. So
4.5, you said?
4.5. I will derail the 5.
That was another one of the films actually that was in that small rotation of school films was Let the Right One In. So that was actually one of the films I saw. That was the only time I saw it was in school. And I only saw it once. So maybe that's why I like this one.
Yeah.
But it was good. Yeah. I don't remember much of it because I wasn't in class. So I was like half paying attention. But from what I remember being like, oh, this is making vampires not lame. Like, because whenever I think vampires, I always just immediately connected to Twilight. And it's like this cringy, sparkly, shimmery man. And it's like, that's not a vampire to me. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a darker take on it. And it was way better.
Yeah. It's not, I wouldn't even say it's so much a darker take. I want to say it's just they don't centralize the theme of like vampire.
Right.
They talk more about like the human condition, the reality of like what it is to be a child in school and being bullied and on all these other things. They focus on a bunch of other themes that are more universal, I guess.
Yeah.
Than like something, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief. And Bob, do you know anything about this movie, or Isaiah?
So I know about the movie. I've never seen it. And like, if I have a sensitivity with movies, it's like, I have to really learn a lot about a movie that's a horror movie featuring kids in it before I'll like give into it. Like there's something about, especially like with foreign films where they're just not afraid to like, decapitate a kid or something. Like that's like my personal limit. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know. But I've heard nothing but good things about this movie. And I should probably check it out at some point. I think that go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, when you talked about decapitating kids, I was going to be like, have you seen Hereditary?
Yeah. I mean, that's not a foreign film, but yeah.
Yeah. that one was gnarly.
I don't know what it is with like Swedish movies either, but like that nation just apparently
they don't give a shit.
They thrive on like plumbing the depths of human depravity. Like, that's where Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like that originated there too, right? And even going back to Ingmar Bergman, who just never made a happy movie in his life. Like, I've never seen like the Oscar reel where they're like best foreign film and it's like some happy rom-com from Sweden. Like they just don't mess with that stuff.
Since you mentioned, I guess, that theme, I don't know if you've heard of a Serbian film.
Oh gosh.
I've
never watched it, but I've read all about it and I'm good.
I know. I've read all about it. I've tried to see if I could find it like for free access, just to see if I could make it even through like 30 minutes. But
Next listeners episode.
Oh.
Anyone listening, put that in the suggestion.
It will stand.
whoever, so
What is it? I've never even heard of it.
Okay,
What's it
so
called? A
Beth,
Serbian film?
yes, it's literally called A Serbian Film. A critic said, I felt like my soul was.
I'll beep
That's
that
how-
one out. Don't worry
I was
about
gonna
it.
say, I'm pretty sure that the government like seizes your computer if you Google search a Serbian film.
Oh,
No,
well,
they
all right,
don't,
looks
but-
like we're all
I'm looking at images right now, and I'm like, what the?
To go back to let the right one in. Isaiah, did you have anything to add?
Yes, it's funny that Bob says that he hasn't heard anything, like anyone say anything bad about the movie, because I'm about to ruin that.
Oh,
God.
wow.
I do not like this movie. I really don't.
Okay.
I gave it a 2 out of 5.
And why is
What's
that?
your quippy one-liner? Let me look it up.
I don't think I have one. This was before I started doing that.
I'll fact check you.
Now I understand the universe, like they try to take vampires, right? Make it universal, have like this universal tone that everybody can agree with,
Mhm.
or like can relate to, of being bullied and all that kind of stuff. But I think what also Bob was saying about the Swedish just depravity and just don't care, like they were trying to push some type of weird pedophilic tones for some reason. And it was just, I just don't understand. It just didn't have anything to do with it. Like it felt like there was subtext about pedophilia, but it didn't feel like it was a, hey, this is bad. It kind of went like, it kind of went the cuties route of, hey, we're going to show you it. And you're going to like,
Oh, I tried to forget about that. Oh, God.
Damn.
like, hey, we're going to show it because you're supposed to feel uncomfortable, but then it inadvertently kind of just, well, you shouldn't have shown it in the first place because it kind of just doesn't match the message or anything like that. That's the vibe I got. And that's why I
I
don't
think
like
my
the movie.
brain blocked that fucking shit out.
I know anybody who watched that movie is like on an FBI watch list, and I'm not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
Watch which movie? Let the right one
no,
in or Cuties?
No, cuties.
Oh, okay. In the book, there is actually like themes of there's discussion about pedophilia because there was the guy who was assisting the vampire at first.
Yeah.
In the book, he is a pedophile.
Anyways, so we're demonetized.
They're demonetized. Bob's
I
never
was going to
coming
say,
back.
you're not going to go into an ad read out of this discussion? Like, it's not going to.
We are.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
So rainbows and ponies and unicorns. Okay, go, Lewis.
Okay. If you enjoy listening to movie-related podcasts like us, then we've got another great show you'll love. The Michael Blake Green Approved Podcast is a brand new show hosted by actor, comedian, and radio personality Michael Blake Green. With a new episode every Tuesday, Michael talks about what it's like to be a working actor, shares hilarious stories, and promotes his upcoming comedy shows. Recently, he released a sci-fi short film titled Anti-Artificial, which is available for streaming on YouTube.com. You can also find the Michael Blake Green Approved Podcast on YouTube or on the TuneIn app.
So, human centipede. I just know.
Right.
Bob.
Yes.
You go by Bob.
I'm really
Bobby,
nervous about what you're going to ask me now. Like,
Rob.
coming out of that conversation.
I don't know. We have a set of questions for you, actually.
You ever visited Serbia?
We just wanted to ask like a couple questions, kind of about you and what you do and stuff. If you will let us.
Social security number, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I need
hang
the
on, I gotta get my
CVC,
notes down.
Yeah, right.
Since you love Chinatown so much, if you could pair a whiskey to that movie, like see people pair wine with fish, what would you?
Oh,
What?
interesting.
That's the thing.
I did not.
Wine and fish. Mm-hmm.
It's like a real seedy, hard-boiled detective story, and it's like real. Lots of it takes place at nighttime, and so I think of a really like something that's gonna kind of punch you in the face when you drink it. So I think of like a really peaty Scotch, like a really smoky, like a Lagavulin or a Lafroig, like something in that ballpark.
Lafroig's good.
If it smells or tastes like someone extinguished their cigar in your whiskey, then like you're on the right path.
That's perfect. That is a great answer because I wouldn't even know what to pick for like Interstellar. Like if I had to pick just any drink in general, I don't even know what the fuck I'd do for Interstellar. Something out of this world, like absinthe.
I want you to drink something that will take you out of this planet into another existence.
Moonshine.
Right.
There it is.
Because it's literally, that's the one.
What I can think of as far as from what I've read about Chinatown, I would definitely think Lefroy is a good pairing. I did read up on your bio on the Film and Whiskey podcast. I do understand that you and Brad were in grad school together. You guys fell in love with bourbon, but I guess my question is more so, was there a specific inspiration behind creating a podcast around that?
So I had wanted to do a podcast for a while, and I tried and like immediately failed to just like launch one on my own. Because I was like, all right, well, how am I going to do a podcast if it's just me? Well, I have to have like a big brash personality, and I'll do like a sports podcast or something, and I can be like Colin Cowherd or like. And then I immediately realized people don't really like that. And also, who am I? Like, I'm just a guy ranting into a microphone about like Cleveland sports. No one wanted to hear this. And so like it was kind of immediately back to the drawing board, but the desire was still there. And I think I just kind of went back to, all right, what's something that I actually really love and can talk about and it won't sound forced. And I settled back on movies. And it was around the same time that I started getting into these debates with Brad about like, what do you mean you haven't seen this movie? Like, and why do you have an opinion on it if you haven't seen it? And then it became like, you gotta watch the movie, man. And, we had a few pours of whiskey and it was like, all right, let's just do this. Let's sit down. I'll let you share your piece. And then I'll tell you from, the more educated pinky in the air perspective, like why you're wrong. And then that it morphed into what it is today. So yeah, that was kind of the inspiration behind it. And it was kind of just like, if we're going to have these arguments anyway, we might as well put them out there into the ether and see if anyone will take my side or your side and we can prove each other wrong.
I love it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
To my understanding of our backstory, I guess, before we really got this together, I don't know what conversations you had with Isaiah before we actually settled on doing this, but I remember Beth and I had multiple conversations about like, she had been listening to a podcast about like conspiracies or something like that. And we had thought about creating our own, and we could, I could be a guest and come on and discuss specific theories with her and so on and so forth. And then somehow we ended up discussing, hey, why don't we start watching movies and just talk about it, talk shit together.
Yeah.
And here we are. And then,
it's like one big hangout.
Yeah.
The way that you phrased that, it made it sound like you were saying, why don't we create our own conspiracy? And I was like, I would listen to that. Like, totally make up something.
I will say
the moon is hollow, guys. Okay.
Okay.
I will say that I still am like, would love to do that, the conspiracy theory concept, maybe further down the road. But yeah, it was basically I was going to be like the main host and have different guests come on with different conspiracy theories and try to convince me that they're real. So they would present all the facts behind the theory and basically like the like change my mind segment kind of thing, prove me wrong kind of thing. And
can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Sure.
Just like one sentence. If there was a conspiracy that you were to believe, which one would it be?
Oh.
Because like I don't know if I'm totally sold on any of them, but I think the one that makes the most sense to me would be like chemtrails. Like, you know what I mean? Like the idea that like the jet streams that you see in the sky are actually a way of like dispersing chemical agents or whatever. Like, I'm like, I could see that being true. I don't know if I believe it, but it sounds semi-plausible.
I think birds are drones. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't exist.
Oh boy.
No, I don't know. I have a I'm not going to mention their name, but I know someone who legitimately believes that the moon landing was faked.
I know a couple people like that in the restaurant industry. So
they think we eventually got to the moon, but at the time that we stated with like Louis Armstrong and all that, that specific event was fake.
Neil Armstrong.
Not Louis. Louis
Louis
is the famous
Armstrong
trumpet
is up
player.
on the moon,
Wow.
just like playing a trumpet. Like,
Oh fuck!
oh man,
I always fuck the name up too.
Yeah, no, the best part for me is that that's not the first time she's said that like that.
I really wish
See-
that should be your conspiracy, is that Neil Armstrong was actually just Louis Armstrong.
They're related, and they're that's mine.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Isaiah, do you have any?
Like, there is one that I was like, yeah, no, that's 100% true, and I cannot
I
for
think-
the life of me remember what it was, and it's. I know I've discussed it with you, Beth. I know I've told you it, and I can't remember it.
I do think Area 51. There's something going on there. That's the one that I'm like, even if it's not what people say it is, there's definitely something top secret they're keeping hidden for a reason.
Mhm.
So I think that would be the one that I would have to get behind. That and Louis Armstrong.
Oh
Neil
my god,
Armstrong.
it's gonna bug me now that I don't remember what that.
I can go through a list. You got the moon landing. The moon's made of
JFK.
cheese.
Yeah, I would say JFK is the big one, right?
That's a big one.
There's so many weird, like if it has anything to do with like the CIA doing something on the American people, I'm gonna be like, you know what?
Oh,
it's plausible.
I'm sorry. I take back what I said. The one I for a fact can get behind is your phones and devices are always listening in.
Oh, yeah,
like where you
absolutely.
get like the targeted ads and you were just talking about it.
Absolutely.
That one, like the Big Brother kind of thing, where it's like they're always listening. You know, like that's the one I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't been arrested. But anyway.
Oh no. I have a conspiracy theory that I think I'm the only one that has ever, maybe not ever stated it. The slap heard around the world from the Oscars was staged.
That's facts.
Okay. All right.
Birds of drones, bro. Come on.
Yeah. Birds of drones. Sorry. Stupid. Keep your wife's name. Keep your wife's name out my fucking mouth.
Anyways,
Isaiah,
yes.
what's your question?
My question is, well, so your podcast is about film and whiskey. So I obviously have to ask, what's your favorite film and what's your favorite whiskey? And there's a part 2 to this question. Do you know what a 4 horsemen is?
Oh.
All right, I'll answer part 2 first, because I was listening to one of your more recent episodes where you guys mentioned how much you hated the 4 horsemen. And I know a lot of cocktails. I had never heard of a 4 horsemen and found out that it was this unholy concoction. I've not tried it yet, but I don't like whiskeys don't often play
So I'm
well
hearing
together.
is you're judging before you've tried it.
This is true. I just don't know if it would taste good. Like
it doesn't.
It's not really meant to taste good.
Is it just a shooter? Like, what do you do with
It's
it?
just a shooter.
Knock it
Oh,
back.
okay. Well, yeah.
It's just to make you regret life. That's really it.
No, it's kind of meant to be like your let's have fun, or let's forget a bad day, or
Yeah.
you know. But it's 3/4 of Johnny, Jack, Jim Beam, and Jameson. 3/4 ounces of each.
That goes down easy for me at this point. Like, let's do it. I'll pound them
No,
with
I
you
know.
guys next time we come on.
For
Yeah.
like real, I guess whiskey connoisseurs, it's going to be a very smooth thing for people who don't tend to drink whiskey or drink alcohol in general.
I see
It's
that.
obviously not a fun time.
I love whiskey. I just don't like all 4 of them combined.
yeah. I get that.
But I'll drink it for the sake of like if we're having fun, if we're out having a good time, sure. But I'm never going to be like, oh, I could go for a 4 horseman right now.
I was going to say,
Never.
like, you might be hanging out with the wrong crowd if that's their idea of a good time. Like, hey, do you like a whiskey? How about let's mix 4 of them together and see what comes out the other side? Like, that just doesn't sound
All right,
like a good
Liz.
plan.
We're not friends anymore. I'm sorry.
I actually want to. So here's the thing: I want to blame your boyfriend and not me,
Fair
because he's
enough.
always the one who orders it.
He does. He, for some reason, he's an insane man. He actually likes like the
I
flavor.
like them too. I actually like them, but it's because I like the 4 whiskeys.
Not together.
Right.
Usually not together. But like it's for me, it's the thing is that goes down smoothly for me versus like I can see the look on Jacob's face when he slams one.
So 4 horsemen, you're gonna try it and you'll let us know what you think.
Absolutely. I'll write a
Great.
long manifesto, send it
Write
in to
it
you
in
guys.
Letterboxd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
0 out
Yeah.
of 5. Don't do this to yourself.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
on your. It's gonna be the only thing on your Chinatown review.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, what was the other question? Is favorite movie?
Favorite movie and favorite whiskey.
All right. Favorite movie. I've gotten to the point where I've watched so many movies that I don't feel like I have to give a pretentious answer anymore. Like it's literally just like, this is not the best movie I've ever seen, but it's the movie that comforts me the most. And it's probably, it's got to be something by Spielberg. Like it's got to either be, I think Jurassic Park is a perfect movie. And the older I get, the more I think E.T. is also a perfect movie. It's probably E.T., if I'm being honest. But, when I'm trying not to seem like a softie, I'll say Jurassic Park. But it's one of those two.
Have you seen The Fablemans yet by him?
I have. Yeah. So good.
I have not seen it yet. I want to. He's one of my favorite directors as well, just because he really, like you said, it's like that. He's a comfort kind of director.
For sure.
Like you watch his movies and you're like, I feel like a kid again, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
favorite whiskey, I will say, like, I'm a big bourbon guy. And so in the world of bourbon, I don't like to get, again, I don't like to get pretentious about it. Like, I'm not going to tell people to go try to chase a bottle that costs hundreds of dollars. Like, I want to tell people to go into the liquor store and find this bottle that's affordable and like available. Mm-hmm. And there is a line of bourbon called Rebel. It used to be called Rebel Yell, but they've distanced themselves from the Confederate sounding name and just called it Rebel now. And there's a 100 proof version. Rebel 100 is $20 and it's really, really good. And
gonna write that down.
Yeah. And there's like, you can get their higher end stuff, but even their higher end stuff, like Rebel Distillers Collection, is only like $50. And I think the Distillers Collection is probably my favorite thing to drink. Like if I was just going to pull something off the shelf on a day-to-day basis, like it would be that. But Rebel 100 is $20 and it's never out of stock. So
I was about to say, this one is actually 17 here at Total Wine.
There you go. Yep.
Adding it to the cart.
Bob, to follow up on that, actually, because I'm more of a Scotch, but I do want to.
I can give you a good Scotch too, because I was actually torn. There's a bottle of Glenmorangie. It's called the Quinta Reuben, and it's aged in port wine casks. It's 14 years old. It's like $50. It's super affordable. And it is like the tastiest. Anyone who's like looking to get into Scotch, I tell them, get the Glenmorangie Quinta Reuben, because it is like, it's lights out, man. So good.
Have you heard of Wild Turkey?
Oh, yeah.
American Honey.
Yeah.
Big fan or no?
So I don't usually drink a lot of flavored whiskeys, but there's definitely like a spectrum of good to Fireball. And
yeah.
And the honey ones you can't really do wrong with the honey ones. Like there's a Jack Daniel's honey and Wild Turkey honey. They're both pretty good. Crown Royal makes an apple one that's really good.
Crown Royal is to me one of the ones that I cannot stand, except for the apple.
Yeah, you got to put some flavoring in it to make it a little bit more palatable, for sure.
Whistle Pig.
Oh yeah, Whistle Pig's good.
That's a really good one. That's expensive, but that's a good one.
That's a rye. Yep.
Yeah. No, my favorite flavored whiskey was Bird Dog's Blackberry whiskey.
I've never tried any of the Bird Dog ones. They're like really, really inexpensive, and they always hit that zone where I'm like, "This is $8. Is this a bad decision?"
I first saw it when I was working as a server. Someone was gifted a bottle of Bird Dog, and I was like, "That sounds interesting." And then like a couple years later, I actually tried it at a liquor store. I just personally liked it like as a blackberry whiskey. I haven't tried like a non-flavored version or any of the other flavors, but I definitely enjoyed that one at least.
Oh, nice.
And I did notice it said like award-winning whiskey. I was like, oh, that's I'm gonna at least go with that.
It was probably awarded by that same like Swedish body of award givers that did the vampire movie.
Yeah. My favorite whiskey to give people, I don't know if you've had this one, and this is strictly as a shot of whiskey, is Howler Head.
Oh, that's the banana flavored one?
Yeah.
I haven't tried it. Is it good?
If you like super artificial flavored banana, it's not bad. It is very banana forward, but it's not a good sipping drink, but it's definitely not bad as like a shot. Like if people are like, oh, I don't like whiskey, and that's like all I got. they're usually okay with it. They're like, oh, that's not that bad. I'm like, yeah, because it just tastes like banana.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with a kick. But we have a smoker and we smoked it with, I think it was pecan wood chips.
Oh, nice.
And that really changed it. It was good. I got to try I have cherry as well. I have to try the cherry with banana.
I don't know if you guys have the palate of a 5-year-old like me, but I'm a big fan of peanut butter and banana, like together. Like I'll do a peanut butter banana sandwich sometimes. And I've always wondered about mixing the peanut butter whiskey with the banana whiskey and seeing how that came out. Yeah, I got to do it one of these days.
So that's the one whiskey I have not really tried is peanut butter or peanut butter flavored any kind of alcohol. I haven't.
Right.
I'm a little worried to try it. I did have pickle whiskey. That was disgusting. That was the worst thing on earth.
I had an old coworker who used to, every time we went out, he would always order chilled Screwball.
Wow. Okay.
Chilled.
And then I had the bartender I worked with. She was a Fireball person.
I'm sorry.
Finish a bottle by herself.
How old is she?
She was an alcoholic and probably older than me.
That's not an age.
Yikes.
She was an alcoholic and she was older than me. I don't remember how old she was, but she was older than me.
Usually when people say their favorite drink is Fireball, they're like 18.
No, she was like in her 30s.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways.
just throw it out there. Last I saw her, she stopped drinking completely. She has a kid.
Good for her.
Oh, good for her.
Good for her. So
yeah.
Well, we came back around on that. That ended in a very touching moment. That was very Spielbergian.
See, there we go. So no more snuff films.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I guess we'll do our sign off. Yeah. Thank you, Bob, for joining us today for our listeners episode. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I know. Definitely.
Yeah, of course. If you want, why don't you tell our listeners where to find you?
It's called Film and Whiskey, whiskey with an E. You can find it on all the major podcast platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Film Whiskey. And then our website is filmwhiskey.com. So we tried to stay pretty consistent with the branding there.
Good. But yeah, definitely go follow them, give them a listen. And then also while you're at it, share this episode and this podcast with your family and friends, because then we can, grow a bit bigger and it's a huge help for us. And if we haven't touched on a film yet that you want us to review, then you can send more suggestions at silverscreensips@gmail.com. This is finally the end of season 7. So we posted a poll on our Instagram for what franchise we're going to do next. And the results are in, and it was like neck and neck. I kept looking every hour, and it kept going back and forth between Hunger Games and James Bond. But in the end, Hunger Games won. So that Gen Z came in.
How unfortunate.
Yeah. So we'll be watching the first Hunger Games in the next episode. God, I haven't seen that film in forever. That's going to be weird. But yeah, thank you again, Bob, for dealing with our bullshit.
Well, thank you guys. And what do they say? May the odds be in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.